Chapter 12. He looked at the beautiful young woman and said, "Where do we start? We will first go to my home, and you will meet the Immortal whom I ruled Egypt with for decades. We will explain your new powers and help you to understand. The Immortal Aiden will come. He is the first Immortal and was natural born like you. When Aiden comes, he and I will take you to stand before the gods. We will go to the realm of the gods and present their newest Immortal. They are excited to see you. A natural-born immortal hasn't arrived since Pan was born," she told him, and he tried to keep up with all the information, even though none of it made sense. "What realm is your home in?" he asked, not knowing any other realm but the Fays existed. "It is in this realm, but it is in a different time," she answered. "How is that possible?" he asked. "Time doesn't cease to exist just because it is past. Time flows in a forward motion always, but a door can be opened to it anywhere it has been," she explained. He didn't understand what she was trying to explain, but he figured he would wing it for now. He knew, though, he wasn't going to leave his family behind like this. "I won't leave my family here. More men will come for them," he told her. She decided she would explain the fate of his family later. He wasn't going to take the news well, and she didn't want him to face too much too fast. For now he must learn his powers and his own fate. "Very well. They may accompany us to my home, but only to keep them safe. They may not travel to other realms," she compromised with the young immortal. Simon looked at his family. "Well," he said, desperate to keep them all safe. "The Fae must return to their own realm, though," Taya commanded. The Furies looked at Paul sadly, knowing his safety was the top priority. "Go with the Immortal. She will keep you safe. We will await your return," they told him. He didn't know why he felt so obligated to their emotions for him. "Everything will be all right. I will come back to you soon," he told them, hoping to ease their sadness, and gently hugged each one individually. Taya watched as he interacted with them. She knew he would never truly know how deadly these three were. When they had been terrorized at the height of their power, even Old Mother hadn't been able to stop them. When the three had become one, their powers had tripled under the dark energy. They had become judge, jury, and executioner of mankind. Taya had not disagreed with anything they had done, but as guardian of the human realm, she was forced to stop them. The gods were convinced that this species of humans would be different and evolve into something more than all the others before them. It was her duty to let them evolve without interference. She might disagree with the gods, but she never went against their wishes. Mother hugged Sawyer and the children. She would close the doorway into the Fey realm until they returned. She spent an extra moment on Simon. "Remember, young Fay, everything you have learned from us. Keep your kind heart and your Fay soul intact, no matter what else you might become," she told him, and he nodded, understanding. Kindness was the most valuable trait to the Fay, and he vowed to her he would never forget the most important lesson of all. Simon stood ready now. "What will you do with that?" he asked, pointing at the stone statue she had turned Derek into. She looked directly at Hannah when she answered, "I will send him to Aiden. He reigns over the demons in the underworld. Aiden will make sure he is punished properly." Then she flicked her hand slightly and the statue disappeared. She stood and began to slowly descend the staircase, with the Chancellor slowly walking beside her. The throne and the platform disappeared behind her with each step she took. When she reached the pavement of the circular driveway, it had disappeared completely. Simon took a step forward and began to follow her to the doorway. Sawyer stared at the ancient being, walking with panthers beside her. It had all become so surreal. She didn't know what lay beyond that doorway, but she knew she would never let Simon face it alone. She knew he would never be the same again. She grabbed Julius's hand and took a step forward towards the door with him. Everyone followed behind them. When they stepped through the doorway, they were in a very large, open-air room. Julius recognized the layout, as many wealthy Roman homes were built in this fashion. Huge columns held up the ceiling instead of four walls and beams. It was meant for hot regions so air could flow throughout the entire home, keeping it cool. Long linen curtains flapped in the breeze, and he could tell by the furnishings that they were not in Rome. However, the room was sparsely furnished for the enormous size of it. "Where are we?" asked Julius curiously. "Where we are is not as important as when," Taya told him, and then said, "Follow me." She led them through hallways and into another large open-air room. It simply contained a giant oval table with seating for at least 50. Servants were lined up against the wall in bright-colored dresses, and the men wore wraparound skirts in the same colors. Julius and Marcus instantly recognized the Shindite that was favored by male Egyptians. The Roman soldiers had worn something similar called the cingulum, but the Egyptians were made of cloth and not the leather of Rome. The linen curtains had been tied back to expose a balcony that was built off the room. It was large, if not larger, than the room itself. On the balcony stood a tall man with long black hair and an ornate purple robe. He stood with his back towards them, looking out at the landscape below. He turned to greet them when he heard them come in, and they saw his face was as beautiful as any woman's had ever been. He was also young like Taya, and his soft skin mixed with his delicate cheekbones made him a marvel to look at. Taya walked up to stand beside him and linked her arm through his. She opened her other arm and gestured at Simon. Ra, may I present you the newest immortal, Simon, she said to him. Ra looked Simon up and down, but remained expressionless like Taya. He began to walk towards Simon, and his movements were slow and deliberate like Taya's had been. Welcome, brother, he said, but he did not extend his hand in the greeting. He then turned back to Taya and linked his arms with her once again. Who are our other guests? He asked her. This is his family. The humans and Seraphine's daughter were trying to kill him when I came for him, she answered. I do despise the daughters of Seraphine, he told Taya, and then let his gaze run across the group of them. His gaze stopped when he saw Celine. They travel with a seer. I should like to talk to this one later, he told Taya. Sawyer was starting to wonder if all immortals were this disconnected from everyone. It seemed to her they had lost all emotion and sense of social interaction. They were speaking as if everyone wasn't standing around listening to them talk, and she found it rude. Simon, the servants will show you and your family to your rooms now. They will provide you with more appropriate attire. Please change and return to us here. We have much to discuss before Aiden arrives. Your family may feel free to explore the palace and the grounds if they wish, Taya told Simon. The servants all stepped forward to obey their queen's orders, but Simon ignored them and asked, When are we? Egypt, 1500 BC, she answered, and his mouth fell open. They all gathered in Sawyer and Julius's room after they had changed. Their rooms were all next to one another's, and opulent was the way to describe them. Each one had an enormous round bed in the middle of the room. An in-ground bathing pool, which could fit 20 people easily, was located close to the balcony. Gold carafes of oils and large sponges lined the edges for the bather to use. The rooms all contained 3 walls, and only the balcony was open to the air outside. Long linen curtains hung all around the room and moved gently in the breeze. At night they could be drawn for privacy if the occupant desired. Tall bronze stands were placed all around the room, filled with oils and wicks for lighting at night. The balcony contained furniture for sitting or lying and overlooked the palace gardens. Everyone was still stunned from the day's events and had come to get their bearings before returning to see Taya. They all sat or lay around the room, and Sawyer started the discussion once everyone had arrived, and she dismissed the servants. I know we all have a lot to say, so who wants to start? She asked. Hannah threw herself across the bed and said, It's all my fault. Derek told me everything after he took me to their lab. I was an idiot for thinking he ever loved me, and I put you all in danger. Harlow tried to warn me, but I wouldn't listen. She began to wail in agony. No, we knew what Derek and his parents were doing. We wanted to spare you the heartbreak until after they had left, but we should have told you. We underestimated them, Julius said, and pulled his daughter up into his arms, feeling guilty for what she had put through because of his silence. Simon, how did you bring Hannah back? Asked Marcus. I just thought about her standing beside me. I'm starting to realize that whatever I think about happens. I guess I'll find everything out about my power soon, he answered. We don't even know what an immortal is yet, Sawyer said. Or how Simon became one, pointed out Cassia. From what I'm hearing, I'm not sure they do either. At least not completely. They keep saying natural born, but they don't seem to know how that occurs. They say all the other immortals were created by the gods, but then how is a natural born one created? Asked Paul. What about the alliance and the experiment? Shouldn't we talk about that? Asked Harlow. I think your mother is out of their reach for now, and we should save that problem for another time. Right now, we just need to focus on what is happening with Simon, Julius said. I don't think we should all go see them right now. I think it's better if just Mom and Dad and Uncle Marcus come with me now, Simon said, and looked at them all to gauge their reactions. The twins looked almost relieved when he said it, and Paul surprisingly took it well also. That's a good idea. I'm sure this is all overwhelming to you, and all of us could just make it more so. Besides, I'm betting they have an amazing library somewhere around here, Paul answered, and the twins rolled their eyes at him. As Simon entered the room again to meet with Taya and Ra, he wore a long robe like Ra's. The servants hadn't brought him regular clothes like they had his family, and he felt a little embarrassed at wearing it. Harlow had certainly used the moment to tease her brother. His was white with silver adornments and embroidery. Taya nodded at him in satisfaction when he entered and motioned for him and his family to be seated. Julius took a chair on one side of him and Sawyer took a chair on the other. They all stared straight ahead at her. Are you ready to learn your powers, Ra? Asked Simon. He has already stopped time, Taya told Ra. Then he is a powerful one, Ra answered, and Taya nodded in agreement. Taya began to speak directly to Simon now. For millions of years, humans have existed on this planet. For longer than you can imagine, the humans have risen and then become extinct. A few species will eventually take their place, and it begins all over. This has been their way for millions of years, Taya said. Ra continued for her. We both were once human, only neither of us were from the species of humans you know now. Neither of us were from the same species ourselves, either. How did you both become immortal? Asked Simon, not caring who answered. The old gods, whose names are still known, created us. They exist in their own realm, and if a soul is broken, that it reaches their ears, they respond. Tia told him. I don't understand. How does a soul become broken in a way you speak? Asked Simon. Let us hope you never understand, Tia said, and would say no more on the subject. How many gods are there? Asked Marcus curiously. Ra turned to him in surprise, as if he were just noticing him. Sawyer was pretty sure that his presence hadn't been deemed important to this strange immortal. There are 13 gods: Zeus, Odin, Gaia, and Buddha, just to name a few. All except for one are still worshipped by the humans. Ra answered in a tone that indicated he thought he might be speaking to a child. Why do these gods create immortals? Asked Simon. We were created to protect the realms, but natural borns aren't created, so they serve another purpose. Aiden was the first immortal and the first natural born. Before him, none existed. The gods also have a first, and he is called Primus. The gods all believe that Primus created Aiden, and they all set out to create an immortal for themselves. Only Primus can see a soul before it is born. The other gods can only see a soul after it has died. Not every soul, though. They can only see the ones who have shattered and called out in agony. They have all tried to create a natural-born immortal, but have met only with failure. When we present a new immortal, Primus only attends if they are natural-born. Otherwise, the council consists of the 12. We believe that Primus is the Alpha and the Omega, Tay explained. Sawyer looked at her, confused. What does that mean exactly? She asked. It was Julius who answered, though. It means they believe he is the beginning and the end, he said, his eyes wide in shock. So your gods believe that Primus is creating natural-born immortals, and they are trying to create them also. But why? To what end? Asked Marcus. We don't know, but we think because they are trying to create an heir, Ra answered. An heir to what? Asked Sawyer. To their kingdom, of course, said Taya. If they are gods, they are indestructible. Why would they need an heir? Asked Marcus. You must consider they are all older than us, and we are ancient. If we have existed for millions of years, imagine how long they have existed. To never end is a curse, not a blessing. To us they are indestructible, but they must surely long for their own demise. We have seen gods and immortals leave and never return to where we don't know, but they must know a way to end their existence. The ones who have always remained like Primus feel obligated to the humans and to their success, but as we have explained, the humans always end the same way. If they could find an heir to lead the humans to, they could be free of their never-ending existence, Taya said. A heavy silence fell over the room as everyone absorbed this idea. Gods who wanted nothing more than to stop existing. Immortals who were created after the human lives were taken from them in a way that made their souls suffer. And Simon, a potential heir to the gods. Simon finally broke the silence. Explain my powers to me, he said. You have absolute power now, young immortal. Your powers are limited only by your own thoughts. Anything you can think of will happen. If you wish to go anywhere in time, you have simply to think of it and you will be there. Your body is indestructible, although you may prick your own flesh if you wish to share your blood. I do not suggest it, though. All who are sired from a mortal must face their own curse, the curse that flows through every immortal's blood, said Ra. Wait, so my father's sired from an immortal, asked Simon, fascinated. Indeed, your father is sired from the blood of the immortal Dagon. Your father and all sired by him are cursed by the endless bloodlust of Dagon. We all curse our children in a different way, Ra said. How many sires exist? Asked Marcus, stunned by this revelation. Many, said Ra, looking slightly uncomfortable, which surprised Sawyer to see him showing any emotion. Witches were sired by the immortal Seraphine. They are cursed to seek power through nature, because Seraphine was killed while seeking power in this way. Demons of the underworld were created by Aiden. They are cursed because of the anger he holds inside and never set free. His demons are the manifestations of his own pain. Many others exist, but most in other realms than the humans. All supernaturals who are sired must bear the curse of the immortal who sired them, Taya told them. What did you sire? Simon asked her. I have never sired anything. I would not curse anyone to my pain. She answered in a way that Simon knew she meant she did not want to discuss it further. So he looked at Ra. Did you ever sire anything? He asked. I sired the trolls, but they are so hideous and deformed I destroyed them all, Ra answered vainly. Well, I'm glad Dagon sired humans, or I wouldn't be here, Simon pointed out. Dagon will be glad to hear that. He is very proud of everything he does and takes nothing seriously except for his sire. He will most assuredly be here to meet his sons and daughter. If Dagon is nothing else, he is vain. Your father's family will please him greatly, Ra said offhandedly. Your choice is to sire is your own. You are immortal. You may do whatever you please, Taya told him. So that's it? I'm all powerful and indestructible? Well, this big production around it. Couldn't one of you just have shown up for 5 minutes and given me this talk? He asked, confused at the situation so far. With this power comes its own burdens, young immortal, Taya said quietly, knowing she would have to tell him of his family's own fate now. You are now a memory that cannot be accessed any longer. When you return to your realm, you will notice over time that people will not remember you. Old Mother won't know who you are anymore, and all the Fae who once used to dote on you will have no memory of you. When you are gone from their sight for any length of time, they will forget you over and over. In time, we will be the only ones who truly remember you, she told him gently. Sawyer put a hand on top of his, horrified. I will never forget you, she told him emphatically. Nor will I ever forget my firstborn son, Julius reassured him. Now Taya spoke softly. Sweet parents, the longer he is away from you, the harder it will be to recall his face. Your memories of him will last the longest, but eventually he will fade from you as if he never existed if he stays away from you too long, she told him sadly. Why? Sawyer asked, and began to cry at the thought of losing him in this way. Immortals aren't meant to be remembered. We exist to protect. The humans have a habit of worshipping power. To not be remembered is the kindest thing we can do for them, Taya answered. Will he become like you, so cold and distant? Will he never know love or connection? Sawyer asked, her heart breaking even more at the thought of the fate of her son. That may be his fate. He may love another in the beginning, but he will soon grow tired of watching those he loves die. His emotions will become burdensome to him, and eventually, yes, he may become like us, Ra answered honestly. Then I will never leave my family. They can't forget if I don't ever leave them, Simon stated, thinking he'd found the solution. A single tear fell from Taya's eyes as she broke the news to him. Only you will live forever, Simon. Your family will have a longer lifetime than humans. But do you really believe 5,000 years from now they will still exist? She said, understanding the impact her statement would make on him. Mother is older than that, and she still exists, Simon said reasonably. Old Mother was created for the species of human, and when they die out, so will she and all the Fae with her, Taya answered. So you're saying my fate is inevitable and I have no choice. I do not accept that, and I will tell your gods that, he told her angrily. We all tell them that in the beginning, Simon. Do you know what place this is? Ra asked and waved his hand around the room. This is the palace I was born in. It is where I make my home now, when I am not protecting the realm I have been assigned. It is where I became immortal, and it is where Tay and I ruled an empire for 40 years together. Yet every time I return here, my family is still lost to me. We all defy the gods in the beginning, but you cannot defy time, young immortal. Thousands of years from now you will make your way to your childhood home, but it will be empty except for the memories. You will come find the memories too painful, and eventually you will let go of them. You can try to defy your fate, but it is your fate all the same, Ra told him. Aiden comes in the morning tomorrow. We will take you to meet the gods, and you may defy them then. Until then, I suggest you spend time with your family. It is a luxury that few of us ever had before meeting the gods. Taya said and stood up. Ra stood and followed her from the room. Simon and his family returned to their rooms. No one slept that night. At first it was a sullen affair as Simon and Sawyer explained the situation to everyone. Sawyer was inconsolable and Julius paced continuously. Simon sat without speaking. The news had devastated them all, until Harlow began to speak of the night the four of them had snuck down to the pool when they were little. Sawyer had always been so overprotective, and they wanted to prove that they could swim by themselves. The four siblings began to laugh and recount their memories of that night, each of them reminding the others of something they had forgotten, until they rolled around laughing so hard they couldn't speak. Soon everyone began to recall memories of times they had spent together. When the dawn broke, they were all laughing and reminiscing. Deep inside, Simon was terrified of everyone forgetting him, or worse yet, being gone someday. He smiled at all of them, though, and he knew, even if they forgot someday, he would remember this night until the end of time. He would hold on to this memory, and when his world became overwhelming, he would revel in the happiness of it. A knock came at the door, and his smile quickly faded. It was time to meet the gods.